When I was a kid, every movie, show, or book taking place in a school had all of these bullying stereotypes that made no sense and I never saw when I went to school. The first stereotype that doesn't make sense to me is people getting bullied for wearing glasses and braces. I don't know if this was just me, but growing up, I was always jealous of kids that wore glasses and had braces. Unfortunately, I was cursed with 20/20 vision and straight teeth, but when I saw these kids with their cool glasses frames and their colorful braces, I straight up felt like I was in an RPG with wood armor and everyone else was dripped out to the max. Also, every time I'm watching a show and someone's getting bullied for wearing glasses, the go-to insult is four eyes.
Arthur's a four eyes. Arthur's a four eyes.
Like seriously, that's the best y'all could come up with? If you wear glasses, how do you even take offense to someone calling you four eyes? Like that's the weakest insult I've ever heard. And insults for braces aren't much better. Metal mouth? That actually sounds super intimidating. It sounds like a nickname for a heavyweight boxer that exclusively wears grills. And I'm sure back when people wore headgear and had super dorky glasses, they got made fun of, but that was dinosaur times. Like glasses and braces have been cool for like at least 15 years. Another stereotype that makes no sense to me was like when kids would get made fun of for doing well in school. Like, you know what I'm talking about? In movies and shows, they'd be the Ben Shapiro looking kids that would try super hard in their classes, and then they'd get made fun of for caring about their grades and future. I'm pretty sure this stereotype is based on like no real world evidence. Like when I grew up, the most popular kids were also really good students. It's just that they didn't look like this. They just look like normal kids. You know, it's possible to have a high GPA while also dressing well and not being a socially awkward weirdo. I'm pretty sure intelligence has always been celebrated throughout history. Like I have no clue where this came from. If there's any unks watching this video, please comment down below if there was ever a time in history when people got made fun of for trying in school. Also, I think we've become super liberal with the use of the word bullying. Like sometimes it's not bullying, but just teenagers being teenagers. When I was in middle school, kids would just call each other the most vile insults. Like the lunch table was basically just a COD lobby, but I wouldn't consider it bullying because everyone was participating. In a weird sense, it was kind of wholesome. I grew up in a pretty diverse place, but the only thing that really annoyed me about middle school was that we'd have these roast battles in the middle of class where everyone would just go around roasting each other's ethnic stereotypes, which that part alone is fun. But my problem was most 12-year-olds' geographical knowledge was awful. Like I'm of Indian descent, but people would roast me using Middle Eastern stereotypes, and I kind of had to like hold their hand while they were roasting me and give them a geography lesson like, no, don't roast me for that, roast me for this. The next stereotype that makes no sense to me would be all of the ways bullies torment their victims in media. Like, let's start out with the most iconic, the wedgie. I'm gonna keep it a buck. If you're a dude and someone wedgies you, and you just take that and do nothing about it, maybe you deserve to get wedgied, bro. Like, if I ever have a son and he gets wedgied, I'm going to tell him he is obligated to start throwing hands immediately. No matter how much bigger the kid is, you simply cannot take that. I personally never saw anyone get wedgied during my time in school, and I think it's because most guys know that if they try that on another dude, they're not just gonna take that lying down like there's some nerd in a TV show. Now let's move on to stuffing kids in lockers. Bro, what? My high school didn't have any lockers, and in middle school, the lockers were too small to stuff anybody in. But I'm gonna be real, even in places with full-size lockers, I doubt anyone's actually getting stuffed in a locker. Like, you know how hard it would be to shove someone into a locker and then try to close the door on them? If you get stuffed in a locker, you probably want to, bro. Then we got swirlies, which is like bordering on a CIA level human rights violation. I've never heard of anyone getting swirlied, but if that happened to you, like I genuinely feel bad for you. Like that's actually messed up. But it's so mythically evil that it's hard for me to believe that it was ever like a predominant bullying tactic. Now let's talk about hornets. If you don't know what hornets are, they're basically when you roll a piece of paper super tightly and then wrap it with tape, and then with a rubber band you launch this lethal projectile at unsuspecting classmates. I remember I must have been 8 when my older brother showed me what a hornet was. He asked me to take off my shirt and turn around, and at point blank range he launched a hornet at my back at full force. At that moment I fully understood why they called it a hornet, because it left a red mark mark on my back for 2 weeks. Safe to say, I showed all of my friends at school what a hornet was after that, and we'd play this game where we'd launch hornets at each other in class while the teacher was talking in an attempt to get each other to scream randomly in class. And I'm telling you, there is nothing funnier than one of your friends going, "Ah!" in the middle of class while the teacher is going over the Pythagorean theorem. But back to bullying, no one gets bullied harder in school than the teachers. Like, I definitely had some teachers I didn't like, but geez, some kids would say the most vile stuff about teachers because they got a bad grade or got assigned some extra homework. And I think because kids are just evil by nature and don't feel empathy for their fellow man, they'll just create rumors about their teachers that are just way too out of pocket and borderline should be illegal to say that about someone. I remember some kids found out my 8th grade basketball coach got a DUI, and within hours his mugshot was all over Snapchat. People were roasting him so hard, and the craziest part was he was completely oblivious to it. No one would speak of it to his face, so as far as he was concerned, no one knew about it. High-key, being a teacher is kind of scary because you gotta know that a lot of your students are just gonna be Googling your information online because kids kind of have no boundaries. Speaking of boundaries, you know what's boundless? Space. And you know what's in space? Stars. And you know what happens on stars? Wars. And you know who likes Star Wars? Nerd. Everybody. Because for the past decade or so, nerd culture is cool. I think this is the only bullying stereotype that has any sort of actual validity behind it. For a long time, people with nerdy obsessions were ostracized from society. Like, you know those soy kids that are super into like Battlestar Galactica despite knowing like nothing about astronomy and have a physique that makes them look like they'd pass out from walking up a staircase? For a long time, I'm sure those type of kids were ostracized from the other kids at school. I mean, anime didn't even become mainstream in the West until like the last 10 years. These days you literally have rappers from Houston cosplaying. I wonder how nerds who grew up in the late 2000s feel. Like, you guys just missed out on being cool. Like, these days if you play Minecraft and watch anime, you're definitely gonna find friends, and if you're not hideous, you can probably find a girlfriend also. If you graduated in like 2010, 2011, you just missed out on being cool. Like, I graduated in 2023, and one of the kids I knew in high school that pulled the most played Valorant all day and was like 5'5". Society has like completely culturally shifted in like the last 7 years or so. School hierarchies don't exist anymore. That's why I never understood these rich high school shows. Like, I can make an entire video about this, but I think you know what I'm talking about. You know, these shows where the rich, popular teens at school navigate the hardships of being rich, popular, and attractive in upper class America. Like, bro, who is actually relating to this? And follow me on Instagram. I'm posting there once we hit 20,000 subs.